Good evening. Welcome to At Home with Philippa. That's me. I'm Philippa. But then you knew that, didn't you? Now the chances are, if you're joining us tonight, you're looking for a bit of guidance or advice in your life. Perhaps you're up for a bit of fabulous chat or great bants. Or maybe you're a mother and this is the only piece of the day you get to yourself, away from the screeching and the flailing of arms and the mummy, this courgette isn't hot enough. Whoever you are, welcome. This is a safe space. But first, a little something about me. Philippa, of course, a name of Greek origin, meaning lover of horses, as I often reminded my parents during the great pony negotiations of 1991. I grew up in lovely Bucks with my family. My father, Roger, retired doctor, my mother, Olivia, retired woman, and my younger brother, Penzance, who is now missing, presumed alive. Now, I live in Tunbridge Wells in Kent, the Garden of England, with my husband Paul and my children, Milo and the girl. My local butcher, Beatrice, suggested I introduce myself to you with one word that really sums me up. I said to her, I'm not going to do that. I'm not interviewing for a junior position at a mid-tier advertising firm. But I will give you several words that I think sum me up quite well. Generous. Witty. Thoughtful. Loyal. Intuitive. Kind. Strong. Human. So with that in mind, let's get on with the show. First off, it's over to Philippa. What? That's me, I know. With the segment, Ask Philippa. Thanks, Philippa. Welcome to Ask Philippa. This is a little section of the show where I answer all your questions that you've been sending in. Whoever you are, I feel fairly confident I can help solve your problems and dilemmas because I'm me and you're, well, not. Remember, if you would like us to answer your question, just send it in to us on social media with the hashtag AskPhilippa. And that's 1L, 2 Ps. This is not a football match. Let's get cracking with our first question. First question has come from Jennifer from Milton Keynes, unlucky. She wants to know, is it respectable for me, a woman of 42, to date a man of 26? Well, first of all, Jennifer, you're telling me you're 42, which probably means you're about 46, doesn't it? And no, it's not appropriate for you to date this man-child. But times have changed, and what you can do is as we used to say in boarding school, you can climb aboard the pony and ride it all the way to Dunstable. Fill your boots, and once you've had your fun, go out there, find a nice, sensible, dull man, around 50, with a nice house. You might have to leave Milton Keynes, and as we say, adult down. Not answering that. Troll. Filthy troll. Okay, our next question comes from Paula, who lives in Tunbridge Wells. Oh, I probably know you. Oh, I hope you're not who I think you might be. Paula writes, I'm moving in with my fiance next month and I'm really nervous because I've never lived with a man before. How do I avoid any clashes? Well, first of all, Paula, you say you're moving in with your fiance. Can I suggest here you go the extra step and get married and really lock that stuff down? Because I'll tell you now, when you live together, things get out, okay? And having your fiance walk in on you and you're plucking your toes because you think he's busy with match of the day is not the quickest way to get a man to the altar. I mean, I also believe that most men will put off the uncomfortable breakup conversation if there's any kind of paperwork involved, so get married. Secondly, as far as fights and clashes, you can't avoid them all. You can't. I had a blazing row with Paul, my husband, Paul, when the other day I asked him to pick up some peonies and he came home with carnations. Yeah. I said to him, oh, I didn't realise you hated me. So you can't avoid it. You can't avoid all clashes. They are inevitable. Well, I mean, my little tip, what I would suggest doing is when you feel you're about to blow, get the keys to the old Audi and just take off. Go for a long drive, you know. I remember once Paul put Merlot in a Boeuf Bourguignon because he couldn't find any Burgundy, even though it was right in front of him. And I ended up in Southampton. That's another troll, that's another troll. Jenny from Hull, not answering that. That's another troll. Oh, Trish. Right, so I have a child starting school in September and I'm worried about competitiveness with the other mums. I've heard it can be quite tough. Well, Patricia, I'm going to call you Patricia because presumably that's your name. It is tough. It's a John Lewis jungle out there at the school gates. Largely because a number of mums will insist on competing with you even when you've sort of established yourself as top dog. I mean, I looked at a sea of them at the last PTA fundraiser and it reminded me of that scene at the end of Titanic, you know, all the chumps floating in the water. Like, give it up, loser. There's only room on the door for one English rose. it's me. Yeah, I think just go in hard. Go in hard and unapologetic, you know. Hit them with some fresh scones, some homemade preserves, you know. Hire a French clowning troupe for your child's birthday party, you know. Perhaps get your child a Mandarin tutor, you know. And yeah, before you know it, you'll be saying Rito Shan to those losers. One here from Peter in Cardiff who asks, where do you stand on soy milk versus oat? What a great question. What a great question. We're an oat milk house. We have been for several years, largely because when I was breastfeeding my youngest, she said that it reminded her of soy milk. And my husband called me Soybean Sue for 2 years. So, yeah, my answer would have to be oat. Well, that's it for this week's Ask Philippa. Thank you for joining us. We'll be back soon, so do keep sending your questions in. Use the hashtag AskPhilippa. Remember, 1 L, 2 P's. You're not up north now. And I'll see you next time. Stay safe. Hi, are you enjoying the show? I thought so. This next section is... Paul! Paul! I only asked for half a bloody hour, Paul! You've not how many melon ballers must I bloody buy you? I'm so rude. I've invited you in my home and you barely know anything about me. Let's change that with some fun, little-known Philippa facts or Philly facts. My middle name is Jocasta. I often get pulled over by the police for driving too well. My greatest fear is death. I was 2 years behind Kate Middleton at St Andrews. 2 years. That's how close it was. My celebrity crush is David Starkey. He'd get it. And by it, I mean my respect. At my wedding, we served Dorset crab with a surprising mango salad. Didn't see that coming? Neither did they. My favourite colour is duck egg blue. My least favourite colour is flesh. Wasn't that fun? You know, people often say to me, Philippa, you must be a contortionist. Why, I reply, because of my toned legs and limber body? Well, yes, they say, but also because you're so good at extricating yourself from any tricky social situations. And I am. When you grow up with a functioning lush as a mother, you learn very quickly how to disentangle yourself from anything unseemly and make it quite clear that mummy may sleep naked in the gazebo after gin night, but you yourself do not ride the same train to Unbecomingville. So what's the easiest way to make sure that dinner parties and all your other appearances in public go smoother than a shiny shaved seal covered in wax? It's simple. Control your husband. But Philippa, I hear you cry, he's a human being, a separate entity with thoughts and feelings independent of my own. Well, let me tell you something. You won't get far with that attitude. Remember, men are very confused human beings. I once watched my husband, Paul, try to feed a duck some bread whilst licking an ice cream cone, and it was like watching a very sticky slow-motion car wreck. Men don't always understand what's going on around them. They need guidance, they need prodding, they need help. This is why I devised a simple code for my husband, a nice system that keeps him on the social straight and narrow, but also allows me to extricate myself from any situations if I'm not feeling entirely comfortable. Thus I present to you the Philippa Code. You're welcome. Let's get started with the basics. Say your husband is misbehaving at a dinner party. Perhaps he's had one too many drinks or is telling that long-winded story about the drive through Tuscany that has no punchline again. All you have to do in this instance is say, has anybody seen Kirsty Allsop's new show? I hear it's a corker. When Paul hears this, he knows instantly he's in trouble. I'm displeased with him. Perhaps he's eating with his mouth open, his flies are agape, maybe he's simply being dull. Whatever it is, the message is simple. Buck up, buddy. This is a clear signal to Paul to return to the path of more impressive behaviour, and hopefully, with the message received, the evening can be salvaged. The next code phrase is a visual clue. When Paul hears me say, ITV never really found the right vehicle for Chris Tarrant, it's up to him then to follow my eye line and spot who I'm looking at across the room. The message here is clear. This is a person of importance, someone I'd like to get to know, we may need something from, or simply someone I'd like to butter up like a fat goose. When Paul receives this signal, it's his job to go over to the person in question, subtly show off the watch I bought him for Christmas, and ask about their holiday plans. If Paul sees me get my phone out at a function and say, oh no, Paul, your mother called, it's happened again, the message here is something of an emergency. What I'm trying to tell him here is, this is awful, we've made a mistake, these people are common, we must leave. And we will do. Paul will fetch our coats and we'll make a quick exit, with our unsavoury hosts none the wiser. Now, implementing the code can be tricky because some husbands will insist that they don't like being under your big thumb of authority. They're wrong, they love it. Next time we'll explore the code in more detail, with things such as how to get your husband to tell a woman you hate her with the minimum of fuss. Hello. I hope you've enjoyed the show so far. I'd like to slow things down, if I may, to talk about a particular passion of mine, charity. As you know, this show is free. That's because I have enough. But every week I'm going to talk about a cause very close to my heart, and I hope you might be inspired to donate. This week, we're going to be talking about comedians, and one in particular. This is Naomi Cooper. Naomi is unmarried, childless, and in her 30s. Due to the ongoing coronavirus crisis, Naomi is currently unable to work or gig. But soon, comedy clubs around the country will reopen, and Naomi and many other comedians like her will travel many miles on public transport to go to shitholes to try to make idiots laugh. Naomi buys Tesco own-brand groceries, drinks Blossom Hill wine, and is unlikely to get on the property ladder in the next 10 years. There are many comedians like Naomi, and they all need our help. For just the price of a coffee, you can help Naomi reach her personal goal that I myself set for her of owning a mid-range designer handbag. So sponsor a comedian today and be the change you want to see in other people's handbag collections. Well, that's all we've got time for this week. Actually, that's not strictly true. It's just I'm bored of this now and I want it to end. Join me next week when my guest will be Richard Hammond and other people who owe me a favour. But until then, it's good night from Lady Macbeth. It's good night from Paul. Don't say anything. And it's good night from me. I'm off for a glass of Pinot Grigio in the bath. Ta-ta.